Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show where I talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about Crisis on Infinite Earths Part 4 and 5. If you look in the description down below, I'll include a time when I start talking about each one. So obviously the first one I'm going to talk about is Part 4, but if you want to just skip to what I had to say about Part 5, you can go right ahead. But obviously starting off with Part 4, a great dude. A lot of great things went down in this part. So I like how we started off, okay, so we're on this planet told Maltis. It's 10,000 years in the past, so we see it's Mar Novu, and we kind of understand how this all came to be, because I kept asking the questions like, so how did you create the Anti-Monitor? Basically, his need for discovery, him being kind of a scientist himself and, wanting to journey, see the dawn of time, something messed up when he, tried to, time travel, and he ended up opening a bridge to the anti-universe. And so it's interesting because in the grand scheme of things, like his need for, discovery like that is actually kind of interesting, because like there's always kind of like, there's bad that kind of comes with, someone's need to, like I said, for scientific discovery. You can look at it with kind of like the whole thinker/devote thing, but even going further back, you can almost compare it to, even though it happened because of Eobard in the original timeline and everything, like Barry still got his powers from the particle accelerator. So it's like, it's that thing of like, obviously good and bad can come from, certain scientific discoveries and, accidents happening and stuff like that. So it's just kind of interesting to know that that's how this all happened. He opened a doorway because of his curiosity, and that led to not only the destruction of his world and the people he loves, his family. That's why this battle is so important to him, because he took this up because he's the one that opened the doorway that led to this ultimate destruction across the multiverse. So we start there, then we pick up with our 7 Paragons and the Vanishing Point. And I do like that we kind of get Ryan's perspective on things. So I know I recently found out who Ryan's supposed to be comic book wise. I thought that was really interesting. I don't want to spoil it for anyone, but I randomly found out. I was like, oh, I knew he had to be someone of significance, and to find out who he is. Like I said, if you're a comic book person, you probably already know. I didn't know until someone had said something. I was like, so obviously, like I said, I'm not going to spoil that for anyone that wants to be kind of surprised on that situation. I'm really curious to see how they handle that, but I did like we got his perspective. It kind of is interesting too, because he's like the non-hero of the group, so it's interesting getting his perspective, because it turns out some time has passed. And I like him breaking it down like Sarah, the Paragon of Destiny, doesn't even believe in tomorrow. The Paragon of Courage, Kate is training so hard for a battle that might not ever come. Lex being who he is, it's not even about him being a Paragon, it's just he's a psychopath. He's just straight up a douchebag. He's just straight up evil. John is just like, meditating all day, because, and then, you have Kara, the Paragon of Hope, having none, and then Barry disappeared. I'm like, Barry disappeared? I'm like, what's up with that? So obviously you have like, Ryan and Lex trying to build a teleporter and stuff like that. It's like, so the only way we're going to get out of here is if, we try to find the Anti-Monitor, beat him, and then we can try and restore everything. But it's like, yeah, but how do we know this whole machine's going to work? At first you have John volunteering, but, obviously Kara's like, no, that's no. Oh, thank you, Lex, for volunteering. And I love Lex being like, that's actually super cold of you. It's like, is it because, I destroyed like an alternate version of your cousin or something like that? I'm like, it was kind of cold-hearted. Like, obviously, Kara had no love for Lex, for a multitude of reasons. Obviously, the most recent being, like, obviously, Cal's death, so. And at the same time, that's all happening. We're getting everything going down in Purgatory. Now, to me, that's so interesting that Purgatory still exists, even though literally everything else in the multiverse got wiped out. Because they literally had to go to Earth 666 to get to Purgatory, because that was the only place they could really go. But I guess Purgatory is like the Vanishing Point. I guess it's like the Vanishing Point is just this moment outside of space and time, and I guess Purgatory is it's death. It's like the land of death, of the dead. So it's just kind of like, of course, even it's going to exist outside of time. I guess it's supposed to be like, even when everything ends, the end is always going to have a place to be. It's always going to exist. So I just thought that was kind of fascinating. But we see that Oliver's become the Spectre in the grand scheme of things. We still don't 100% know what that really necessarily meant, but that was interesting. But basically, he needs to be the spark. He needs to defeat the Anti-Monitor, but it's not something he can do alone. He's got to get some friends. Cut back to the Vanishing Point. Obviously, the teleporter didn't work. And I love that it's just like, okay. And then all of a sudden, like, we see red and yellow, and it's like, what? Barry comes flying out of nowhere. It's like, what? He's like, what? Where am I? They're like, you've been gone for months. He's like, what? I just left. I was like, oh my God, which is crazy to think about. I mean, even though time and space don't exist in that place, like, I think time is still relative to each one of them, because, or at least most of them are human. So, but to me, it was like, oh, it's like, where did you go, Barry? Because I thought, like, oh, because of the whole Iris thing, he was like, I was like wondering where he went. It's like, oh, he literally tried to go to the Speed Force. I'm like, oh, that's pretty smart. I would have never even crossed my mind to think of that, but he tried to. But it's like, he's like, it's like going Mach 10 into a mountain. He just ended up getting flung back. So it seems like, at first I was like, oh, so even the Speed Force was destroyed? Because I was like, okay, so like even the anti-monitors, like anti-matter wave that, like I said, Purgatory and obviously the Vanishing Point couldn't really be destroyed. So I was like, oh, maybe even the Speed Force was destroyed? But obviously Barry's like, no, I got to do this. But everyone's telling him to take a step back. But for him, it's like he's so desperate. You know, it's like this might be their only option. And lo and behold, who shows up? Oliver. But he's now Spectre now. And it's like, wait, what's this all about? And it's like, you were right. The Speed Force is the key, because you're going to need it to travel to the dawn of time. Because basically the teams are going to split up. One group is going to try and stop Marnovu from ever going back. Basically doing what he did that opened the pathway to the anti-matter universe, and the others are going to try and hold off the anti-monitor till everything's kind of ready. And I was like, oh, this is so crazy. And I love him touching Barry's head. It's like, okay, I've unlocked all your potential, and he's like, by touching my forehead? And it's like, in the grand scheme of things, we still don't know what that necessarily meant, but I guess it's just like in that moment, like what Barry's fully capable. I doubt it's going to be a permanent buff. I guess it was probably like a jolt, because he even said like, I don't know, because Oliver made a point to be like, the fact of the matter is, be careful with this, because obviously doing what Barry's going to do is going to be very dangerous. It could end up destroying him. But I guess like with his full capabilities unlocked, like that could be even more dangerous. So I was like, all right, let's get ready for this fight. Zap grabs everybody up, bursts through the Speed Force. Kara, Lex, and Ryan gets sent to planet Maltus. I love that they get flown out. Kara catches Ryan, and Lex gets told, it's like, yeah, why would she waste her time actually, saving you? So I love that. And okay, so it's like, okay, so what are we gonna do? Like, Ryan's excited. Like, oh my God, we're on an alien planet, which is kind of interesting, because like that hasn't really happened in like. Aside from Argo's the closest thing we've had to really spending any time on an alien planet, so that's interesting in the grand scheme of things. So I thought that was kind of fascinating. But Lex is off on his own, and Kara has to stop him. He's like, what are you doing? And his plans, obviously Lex being the megalomaniac that he is, it's like, oh, world domination, nah, that's not good enough. Considering the situation we're in, why stop there? Let's go universal. And he also made sure to give himself powers too. So that's interesting. I think it's pretty, it shows you how smart Lex is too. He made sure not to show that off until the last moment so he can catch everybody off guard, because it's like I'm sure in those months they were, trying to fix the teleport and stuff like that, make it. He showed no hints of that. So I just thought that was great. And now he's trying to convince Marnovu. It's like, hey, work with me. Like, I'm here. Like, basically, he wants the powers that Marnovu would eventually end up getting. It's like those abilities. It's like, let's work together and stuff, because he wants those powers for himself. Because, once again, universal takeover. Let's restore the universe first, then I can take over. It's like, man's got ambition. Evil ambition, but still. But I thought it was kind of an interesting thing, because, like, the whole thing is Ryan's still kind of like, I'm here, I'm just a human. Like, at least, anyone else that's here that's human, like Kate, at least she has like fighting skills and stuff like that. I'm not a hero or anything. But Kara talks about the fact is, like, because he was like, I'm the paragon of humanity. I don't even know what that really means. It's like, but the fact of the matter is, you came to help. You left your own family behind because someone said that you were necessary to save like the universe and everything. And it's like that, it shows, his humanity. The fact is his good nature, So I thought that was kind of, pretty neat, trying to tell him that, even though you might not have powers, it takes a special person to do what you did. No one else in your position probably would have, So, and then you have Kara and Lex fighting while they're dealing with the whole Amaro Vu situation. Legitimately, when they're like her heat ray vision, which that's also pretty dope. I mean, well, she knows he's got power, so she's not holding back, but she was straight up heat visioning right from the beginning, which is pretty badass. But I also love the fact is, like, when Lex was blasting back, like the way her heat vision looked, like it was almost like it looked like it was melting. Like, I don't know, I just like that effect. It almost looked like liquidy fire. Like, I don't know how to really describe it. It looked, I don't know, I just aesthetically, I like the way that looked for whatever reason. Because I love him calling Lex out, because it's like, for everything that you've done, all the people you've hurt, even Lena, it is like, all I did was tell her the truth, which you didn't have courage to do, so... But it took Ryan kind of explaining, like, trying to stop Amaro Vu, because it's like your need to figure this all out is going to cause more problems. There's going to be trillions of lives lost if you do this, you know? And luckily Ryan was. And I think I like that being the moment of, like, showing that you don't need superpowers to be a hero, you know, that, you know, even regular people can, because, you know, he can understand too, because, like, you know, all that he gave up to kind of be here, and it's like, I get, you know, probably, you know, as a smart person to it, you know, he can understand, like, hey, I get you, the need to discovery and stuff like that, and it's like, this your life's work, but that doesn't come before all the countless lives. Like, I mean, because obviously it's a big regret that Amaro Vu eventually has later on in the timeline, dealing with all this, the ramifications of his mistake, you know? So I thought that was kind of pretty neat. I even love Lex being pissed. It's like, you know, you literally messed up a good evil plan. All the while this is happening, the Anti-Monitor had stopped Barry while they were in the Speed Force, and everyone got flung different places, and, you know, you have Barry having to travel, and I liked him being like, the Speed Force is so massive, which is also interesting too, like, going back to that. The fact is that the Speed Force wasn't destroyed, that it was still intact. I didn't really talk about that, but it's like, that's still impressive. I also think it's kind of interesting that he never actually saw the Speed Force, and I mean, I guess the Speed Force is probably dealing so much with, like, let me try, or I don't know, because it's like the Speed Force is infinite, so maybe it was just too spread thin at that time, maybe dealing with the whole antimatter situation, you know, kind of keeping its own existence, because I'm sure probably given enough time, even it and maybe even Purgatory would have been wiped away. But I just thought it was interesting. It's like, wait, this is where you and me met, but it's not really Oliver. He had set a piece of his consciousness there to kind of track everyone, and so it's up to Barry to kind of chase around the Speed Force. He has to trace the connections between everyone, like the connections that's kind of brought them together, like using his connection to Oliver and everything to kind of pinpoint everyone as they're kind of stuck in these particular moments. Like, I like the whole Kate situation. I thought it was interesting. She walked in on Ray and Oliver arguing. I don't remember this argument. I can only assume that's season 3, maybe 2. I'm assuming 3. It could be either one, because I think he pops up in... No, he didn't pop up until season 3, Ray. So it was definitely season 3. Because it was Palmer Tech and everything. But it's like and it was interesting because it's like, she's looking at Oliver and Ray, and it's like, oh, he doesn't trust her. It's like, Felicity told you the truth about me. She trusts me, so you should be able to too, but Ray wasn't willing to. And Kate's watching this, and once again, I like that people grow from these experiences, especially Kate. You know, like the whole Earth 99 Batman in part 2, like how that basically is going to affect her going forward. I like how this is going to affect her going forward, because she looks at Oliver and it's like, you didn't trust people and they didn't trust you either, but at the end of the day, look where you are right now. So many people, your bonds are stronger than iron. Basically, all these people that are with you through thick and thin, these bonds you've created. It's like, for her, she's like, I'm here because I think, you know, this is a lesson that you learned that I think I can learn, because she has a tendency to kind of cut off the people in her life. And I think for her, being a little more trusting is something she's going to try doing going forward. She's kind of lived her life her trust has kind of wavered in a lot of people. She hasn't really opened herself up to trust people or let people that have the opportunity to prove their, so I think that's going to be an interesting element for her going forward. We got to talk about the craziness that was Grant Gustin running into Barry Allen. Ezra Miller, I lost my shit. I don't know whether his name popped up in the credits, because I definitely missed it, and I'm glad. I was like, what the hell am I watching right now? I was like, wait, I started losing my mind. I was like, this is happening. I was speechless, dude. I was like, this is happening right now. And he's like, whoa. And I love even Ezra Miller's Barry being like, oh man, oh, you must be a fan or something. He's like, no, I'm the Flash. He's like, the Flash? I was like, right, you don't even have a name in the Justice League, do you? Like, they just know you as Barry. Like, you don't have the moniker of the Flash. I was like, you don't have, I was like, that's crazy. Because I just thought about it. It's like, right, they never referred to you as, because no one actually goes by their moniker, do they? Like, I know, I don't think anyone necessarily goes by their moniker except for Superman. I don't even think Diana goes by Wonder Woman, so it's like, but it's like, oh, for him, it's like this, it's weird because it's like, wait, this is how he gets the name The Flash? He learns it from a different version of Barry Allen, and I just love them complimenting each other's costumes and stuff like that, like, because I know there's some video online of Grant Gustin's reactions to seeing Ezra Miller's, like, Flash shoot for the first time a couple years ago, but I never saw it. I've always come across it. I've just never watched it. But it's just neat him being like, oh man, I like your suit. I was like, he's telling Grant, it's like, oh man, yours looks so comfortable. Grant's telling Ezra's like, yours looks so protective. And he's like, and they say at the same time, I'm Barry Allen. He's like, no. He's like, what's, and then I love Grant being like, wait, you don't know yet. And I was like, he doesn't know. He hasn't experienced the multiverse yet, even though you've been dealing with it for years. And he's like, I've been experienced what? What are you trying to tell me? And he's like, whoa, Victor was right. I was like, dude, Cyborg. So whatever this is, maybe Cyborg pushed. I'm like, so this starts getting my mind racing. I'm like, does this mean this is going to affect the movies? Is this going to be a little wink and nod in the Flash movie? Is it going to be a wink and nod in the DCEU going forward? I don't know what they're going to do with this. That was so damn good. I'm like, what? What? This is nuts, dude. That was so freaking good. I lost my mind at that point. Okay, besides that hypeness, there's also this situation of, I like John ends up where Oliver and Kara were back in Heroes versus Aliens all those years ago, of like them not agreeing because it's like, he's like, let me process this. I had to deal with like metahumans. Now I'm finding out, there's another, I had to deal with the multiverse thing, and now I'm learning that there's aliens and everything. But I love what John was there, and I think that was kind of a key moment. I think was kind of interesting because he's like, despite like the fact is both of you don't trust each other, you don't even like each other right now, but we come to depend on this, like this whole bond. It kind of goes along with what Kate ended up learning, that this trust that they've built. And it's like, why are you telling us? I think, maybe it's a situation of like, we got to recognize that ultimately, like, in the grand scheme of things, I'm skipping around and stuff, but like them coming together is kind of like looking at back where they were to where they are now. In the grand scheme of things, it makes so much sense, Then there's like Oliver, during Elseworlds last year, he was there with Lois and Clark. And I even love Lois being like, Barry, did you take time away from saving the world to go get a new suit? He's like, no, it's not. And I love that being a thing. And he's like, no, it's not like that. And he's talking to Oliver, and he finally understands everything Oliver's talking about. It's like, I knew you had something like that special arrow and stuff like that, because Barry wasn't there at the time. But he was like, I didn't understand it, because this is Oliver. He's like, right, adds that side of him that Spectre kind of pieces it back together. Right, I know we're in the Speed Force. I understand everything that's going on. And I thought was the very like heartfelt moment. I thought was so beautiful between them, because it's like, right, I made a deal with the Monitor to say, but both you and Kara were supposed to die, saving the world. And he's like, but I wouldn't, I wouldn't change that decision, to give up what I gave up. And he pieces it together for Barry. He's like, you said you gave everything up for. He's like, but you died. You gave up your life. But for Oliver, it's like, it's worth it. Because the fact of the matter, and I love that line of, dying is easy. Whether I'm at peace or not, whether, there's peace or not for someone, the true heroes are the ones that have to keep, the real heroes are the ones that have to keep going on regardless of all of that, So I thought that was a beautiful and touching moment. And obviously Barry having to go get Sarah, and this awkward thing of Diggle and Sarah, and Laurel and Diggle being there, and it's like, He's like, ooh, this is awkward. I mean, granted, you guys aren't really you, but this is still awkward. Because it's like, right, because they didn't meet Barry yet, had they? They didn't even meet Barry until after that fact, because Sarah came back in season 3? Was when she, yeah, I think so. Yeah. But regardless, I was like, ooh, that's rough. And just Barry was like, yeah, and he wakes Sarah up, and Laurel's like, oh my God, it's a miracle. And it's like, it's so interesting because it's like they're having this heartfelt moment about, because I almost halfway expected them, it's like, oh, you got to carry on being the canary for her. And then I halfway expected Sarah to kind of wake up on her own, but it's like things awkwardly went down like that. I love it. So Barry dashes around, takes Sarah and gathers everyone up, and they go to the dawn of time, where this is all going down, but everything still plays out this way. Because I thought and I think I like this almost inevitability, because we're talking about the multiverse. Even though they stopped that version of Mar Novu, there's countless other Mar Novus out there who are so intent on getting the research that at least one of them will just still push forward anyway. It's almost like this whole situation with the anti-monitor is inevitable, it's kind of what that is. And I thought that was such a great thing. I'm like, okay, so what do we do? So Oliver's willing to, light the spark. And it's something that, and I love that moment he had told Barry this earlier, but he kind of repeats it here. Is like, do you trust me? And Barry's like, with every fiber of my being. And it's like, and he kind of looks at Kara, and they like all kind of understand like, what's this going to be? And it's like, I'll light the spark. You'll know what to do. And he goes off to fight the monitor, because I like the monitors. Like, oh, the fact is, like, it's been since the dawn of time that this was all meant to go down, and you think, well, that you guys can stop it. And it's like, for Oliver, it's like, I've literally, everything I've ever done has put me in a position to be where I am now. Because, Home Dude had said it, upon making Oliver Spectre, is that every punch, every kick, every arrow he ever shot, everything in his entire life, it's like his experience, he had to remember all that, he had to hold on to it, because all of that led him to where he is right now. It made him into the hero that he is right now, that made him ready for this challenge, what his destiny is. So while everyone's kind of fighting off all those creatures, I love that Ryan's kind of asking you in the middle of like, oh yeah, this is like the difficulty of saving the world and stuff like that. And do you have like Sarah being like, yeah, my team and I, we usually kind of mess things up for the better. And Barry's like, everybody focus. This is the fight of our lives. But you have this sick moment of Oliver and the anti-monitor clashing, and like some of the ground upheaving and all this energy circling around them. Because I even like the fact is they used the term, is that what rebirth is? I know like rebirth is kind of like the new continuity. I don't even know if that's still the newest continuity. I think it is amongst the comic books, because I know there's like the Silver Age, Golden Age, and I know there's like New 52. Is that what this is? Because this is what I know that Crisis is. Crisis is basically taking the multiverse and compiling it all into one universe. I think that's what Crisis's ultimate ending is. I'm talking about it because that's kind of where things are leading itself into. But the point I was trying to make was the fact is that he used a specific word of rebirth, the universe. So that's what kind of made me correlate. Is that what rebirth is in the comic books? I would assume so, but like I said, I could be 100% wrong. It could be them making winks and nods, that meaning a lot of the continuity going forward might be pulling from the rebirth comic. Like I said, I don't know. I'm not knowledgeable in the comic books at all, so. But still, it's this moment of Oliver kind of continuing to give everything. In that moment, he lights the spark, and it's like, okay, so how do we fix this situation? What are we supposed to do? And I like kind of finally getting an understanding of what the Paragons represent. They're kind of all a representation of what is needed for them to focus, because obviously Lex was able to change things with the Book of Destiny, and it's like, okay, so. You got to, basically, they all have to have a clear picture, each one representing, obviously, truth, courage, humanity, hope, love, honor, and courage, all kind of representing the different, paragons. They kind of all of them coming together, them focus on that spark and lighting that flame. They were the 7 pieces that kind of make up, I think, the universe. Essentially, they kind of represent the 7 components necessary for it. So it was this beautiful eruption that ends with the anti-monitor being destroyed, and Barry and Sarah go to, Oliver's side, and it's like, come on, just hold on. It's like, he's like, I want you to look after my family. It's like, no, don't worry. You'll be there to look after them. But for him, it's like, he knows that this is the end. This is the end that the monitor has solved for him. And, Barry's like, come on, don't do this. And it's like, for him, it's like, look what we were able to do. And they look up, and it's like, that's a new universe? And Barry's like, it's small. And it's like, yeah, but just keep watching it. And the fact of the matter is, it's like, remember what I said. It's like, dying is easy, but the heroes are the ones that keep going. And it's like, essentially this new universe is going to need all of you to look after it, And so Oliver dies again, but it seems like this is like the permadeath. It seems like, because I kept wondering like where Oliver's story was going to take him, considering like, let's not forget, this is episode 8. There's literally only 2 episodes of Arrow going left, and it's like, once again, I haven't even seen part 5 yet, so I don't even know what part 5 of the Crisis Event, what that's even going to look like. Obviously, I'm gonna watch that next, but obviously I watch things one at a time. So here we are in the grand scheme of things, and it's like ending on kind of a sour note, but the universe, this new universe being there, like I said, what that all means, I'm gonna have to wait till part 5. Like I said, so you'll be hearing my thoughts, but I gotta go run and watch that. But like I said, a great part 4. I'm so excited to see what goes down in part 5 with all of this, because it seems like what that means in the grand scheme of things, we literally have an entire part to close this out. So what's that going to be like? Even though this seemed like this was the final battle, like, what's going on? I have no idea what to expect, and I'm so excited to find out. Really quickly, I should also add here, like, Lex helping out in the fight and stuff like that. I love it. It's like, oh, so this is what I'd like to be a hero. It's like, oh, this is good. You almost see Kara kind of look at him like, shut up. Don't talk about being a hero. This is all self-preservation. You were literally trying to rule the universe yourself, not to... Shut up. It was almost that kind of look, but that was just kind of crossing my mind. But like I said, on to part 5. And now moving on to the 5th and final part of Crisis on Infinite Earths. Another part, a great way to end off this Crisis event. So much stuff went down, because I like the fact of the matter is, because I was curious, like, the way part 4 ended. I was like, how are you going to continue that in part 5? And I guess the way I kind of ended off my discussion of part 4, I kind of spoiled it a little bit, because they make it like a slow reveal in 5 of like, what's going down. But it's so good, because I love Carl waking up like, wait, what's going on? Alex here. I'm like, I was like, everything's back to normal. I was like, you don't. I was like, wait, no one else knows what's going on? I mean, to be fair, why would they? They literally all got wiped out. But even all their memories of everything that went down during the Crisis event, Kara's the only one who remembers. So it's not just her, it's all the Paragons that remember. So now she's like trying to figure out, like, wait, what's going on? Alex doesn't remember what's going on. It turns out it's like, Kara saved the day because she stopped a white Martian that was causing havoc, which I'm guessing that's supposed to be... I guess it's a different white Martian from the one that Malefic was working with. Maybe. I don't know. Whatever the case may be, it's like, wait, what? What's going on? So, well, was it even a white Martian or was it just an alien? I don't remember what it was. But whatever the case may be, she goes, because Nia invites her to like some press conference thing, and it's like, someone's being honored. I was like, are all the heroes going to be honored or something? Lo and behold, comes out Lex freaking Luthor. I'm like, what? And he's getting the Nobel Peace Prize. Like, oh my God, Lex Luthor, he's the best. He's amazing. Yada, yada, yada. I'm like, even Kara's like, what? She's even talking to Alex. It's like, how can you? He's the worst. And she's like, no, he's the boss. He's the man. He's the dude. And it's like, what? So it turns out the DEO is part of a subsidiary of LexCorp. And then John shows up and is like, yeah, I know what's going on, Kara. The fact of the matter is we're the only one that remember. Kara's like, I need to punch something. And lo and behold, she runs. I was like, that's Weather Witch. And then Kara's like, wait, who are you? She's like, I'm Weather Witch. I'm like, oh my God. And then Barry shows up and it's like, I got this. Wait, who is it? Yeah, this is, wait, why are you doing on Meyer? No, I thought you were on Meyer. And this dude Marv shows up and it's like, can I get your autograph? It's like, wait, what? I mean, yeah, sometimes it's you, Green Arrow, and then, sometimes a few of the legends are going to... I'm like, oh my God. It's like, it's what I talked about. Literally all the Earths came together into one. So now National City is on the same Earth as this Star City and Central City that we've come to know from Earth 1. And it's like, everyone figuring this out. You had Sarah going to Ray, and I love it being like, oh, you don't remember everything that went down? He's like, wait, were we part of another crossover? Did a crossover happen? Did we get invited? Did we win? I'm like, yes. I should also have prefaced this. It's like, what did I expect? This is part 5. It's a Legends of Tomorrow episode. Dude, it's when the Legends evolve, shit's going to get weird. I should not have been surprised. It's like, of course they're going to make this the wackiest and craziest episode. It makes sense for this to be the episode where like everything's topsy-turvy, and everything's kind of weird. It's the perfect part for Legends of Tomorrow. So it's like, holy crap. Like, what's going on? John shows up because apparently John's going around zapping everybody's brains, making it go like, okay, this, and this, kind of making everyone realize, what's happening. And then Ray's like, whoa, wait, he's like, oh, multiverse. There was an evil Batman, and there's a super version of me. And I'm like, yay! And so, but now Sarah's looking for Oliver, and that kind of goes, it's kind of like the sad aspect. Because I almost halfway expect, I was like, are we gonna undo that? Because I was almost halfway expecting Oliver's dead, but it's like, no, we'll find a way around it. It's like, there ain't no undoing that. He is dead, and Diggle takes it the hardest because it's like, I promised I was gonna be there. I failed him a second time. I wasn't there again. Like, he was my brother. I wasn't there for him. But I take solace in, and I think Diggle is like, Oliver didn't die alone. Barry and Sarah are by his side. But I mean, it's still the thing of like, that was my best friend. That was my brother. I should have been there for him. I promised to be there for him, And now Renee and Dinah having, like, despite everything that's happened, that is his family, Oliver's family. So, and obviously, Sarah's taking this hard too. So obviously Barry and Cara are coming in there excited. But then it's like, wait, what? Because now, because John also went, because Nash was found, but he doesn't have any memories of anything either. So John restores his memory because it's like, restores his and Caitlyn's memory to be like, this is all his fault. He's the one that released the anti-monitor, which also begs the question in the grand scheme of things. We never actually get an answer to it. What actually, I guess, Marno Vu is on his planet of Malta, is just kind of living his life. I guess that's just what that is. Because it also turns out, because we end up finding, I should have figured, I didn't think about it, but earlier Kara had been like, oh yeah, even Argo is up there in space on this Earth. So it's like, I'm going to see Superman's here too. Him and Lois. But I thought that was, it's just kind of like the realization that Oliver sacrificed himself. So while that's all going down, Sarah calls in Ava and Nate. It's like, wait, you got shanghaied into another crossover, didn't you? See, this is just what happens. When we turn them down, they commit a felony. They commit a felony. I'm like, dude. Because good old Bebo is running down the street. I'm like, Bebo. I'm like, we haven't seen this since. And then it's like, oh, Bebo. I love even Renee being like, shouldn't the biggest focus be the fact there's a giant Bebo running down out there? And it's like, and Sarah's like, well, that shouldn't be, actually, this wouldn't be that weird of a situation. And Renee's looking like, what? And then Barry's like, oh, right. Wally told me about this, everything that went down in the season 3 finale. And you guys turned into a giant Bebo and ended up defeating a time demon. And Sarah's like, actually, I guess it's not that complicated to explain. And I love it. I love later on, it's just like, Dinah is like, is this normal? And Renee's like, are all the is this, no, Dinah was like, is this really happening? And Renee's like, are all crossovers like this? And she's like, to Dinah's, yes. And Renee, not always. I'm like, yes. So it's a giant Bebo. Everyone's working together. It's like Ray, Supergirl, Adam, Supergirl, and the Flash are trying to stop Bebo. And I love that Ray's taking a picture, and he's like, they're like looking at him like, what are you doing? He's like, what? Oh, you guys didn't want to be in the photo? Oh, no, wrong time. I got it. So I love it. And they're working together to beat Bebo. I love that there was one person here, and it was Rory. And I love the fact is that he's blasting. He had his book signing, and that was like, oh, what should I do? Rebecca. She's like, what should I call you? He's like, Rebecca's fine. And he's signing the books and everything. It's like, I'm so proud of Mick. Look how far he's come. He's become this best-selling author and everything. It's like, it's really good. I even love later on Caitlyn, or rather even Frost, it's like, because he was like, oh yeah, it's been a while since we teamed up. And she's like, oh yeah, like, I read your book. He's like, which one? Kind of like, I've written so many books. And I'm like, oh sick. I love it. But it turns out the Bebo wasn't even real. It was a fake Bebo because some sorcerer dude was robbing a bank. And it's like, yeah, it's kind of like you kind of picked the worst time because like it's like, yeah, because it's almost like him doing this now. It's like the ending of Titans. It's like, oh, a bad guy is about to do something. Oh, literally every Titan that had gotten together for the end of the Teen Titans cartoon were there waiting to kick his ass. And it's kind of that same mentality almost. I love it. It was just so much fun, and I'm like, wow. So there's all of that, and then they're kind of celebrating, and I love that, like, Renee meets Rory. It's like, oh, we had a Rory on our team. I'm like, it's something I've never looked into, what that whole that whole situation is, like, around, like, Mick, the whole Rory from Arrow, I don't know what that whole situation was. And there's stuff around that I just haven't looked into. But it's just like that. And it's like, yeah. And they're just looking at Mick. I'm like, oh, no, I don't know what. I love that they're making a nod to that. Like, yeah, we know Rory. I'm like, I like that you are acknowledging that at the very least. So there's that whole situation. But like everyone's kind of, celebrating this. Obviously, it's a tough time, for Sarah, because like for her, I thought it was kind of, because she has lost a lot. Like, yeah, there's Earth to Laurel and everything, sure, but there's, her Laurel is gone, her dad's gone. They don't know what currently what her mom's situation is. Like, I guess, like, because her mom's still alive, but I guess, like, her mom wasn't always kind of the biggest part of her life, so it's, I guess that's kind of, I don't, that's something that's never really been talked about too much. I mean, yes, but it hasn't been touched on in a very long time, so, and Oliver was kind of like the one last, because Oliver was like the last person that she cared about that knew about her, like, before everything, like, because she even said herself, she's like, I've been through so much, I was an assassin, I died, and then here I am, the captain of a time ship, because she's going through so much, but like one of the few people left in her life that held ties to who she was before is gone, and it feels, which obviously Barry, talked about. The fact is, he understands. The fact is, what it's like to lose family, and he's like, you kind of feel like things won't be the same, and it's like they won't. But the fact of the matter is, you meet other people along the way that kind of become that family, And for Sarah, she's like, I never, but it's like the legends have become that family for me, So I just thought, it's just like this very heartwarming, moment between Barry and Sarah. And I even love her being like, when'd you get so, knowledgeable? And I think, it's like, the torch that Oliver passed on to Barry, and he's kind of continuing that on. It's just, a sweet moment in the grand scheme of things. But then all of a sudden those creatures start popping up. Despite what Oliver did, the creatures aren't dead. The Anti-Monitor isn't dead. He still survived. So the whole thing is like, well, how do we defeat him? Because we can't really do anything else, because it's not going to be, you can't be created, can't be destroyed. So it's like, how do we deal with this? And then they come up with a plan to shrink him. And in particular, Ryan comes up with the idea, because he was the one, being, the paragon of humanity. He kind of restored, like, Sarah's fate by being like, hey, the fact of the matter is, we can do this because Oliver sacrificed for this world, so we got to give all we got to protect it for, in his honor, in his name. So I thought that was kind of a beautiful thing. But it's like, Reyes suggests, we'll shrink him down. I call it the Atomverse. And you had Ryan being like, I call it the Microverse. And he's like, actually, that's a better name. I mean, there might be some like copyright issues, but yeah, still a better name. So they're working on a shrink bomb. Everyone else joins forces. I also love that moment when Kate did show up with the whole Bebo thing of like carving. So sorry, she's like, oh my god, look, Kate! And Barry looks at her. She's like, almost like, right. This isn't the appropriate time for that. It's just like, I love it. But look, I did like that everyone kind of working together, everyone squatted up ready to take on the Anti-Monitor, and him putting out a force field, everyone like throwing, like shooting and like blasting, and Barry dashing around punching him. It's just like everyone working, and and just it being this coordinated effort. I also love that John, it's like a new look, and it's like he's just wearing this suit, but he hasn't gone full Green Martian with his head, and he's like, new Earth, decide new look. So I'm like, oh, are we going to see him kind of more battle ready going forward? I'm curious. I guess that's going to be more of an aesthetic thing he does going forward. So I'm like, dude, I don't care. New changes, make all the changes happen. So everyone working together, but obviously it's still a very one-sided fight because the Anti-Monitor is beating them back. And it's like, all right, go get the time bomb, while Kara, John, and Clark end up distracting him. And I love that it's like, all right, now these pieces are all delicate, and then very quickly puts the pieces together, and it's like, oh, actually that is perfect. And then Ryan's like, whoa, and Ray being like, oh, I love it when he does stuff like that. I'm like, yeah, I know, Ray, I love it too. And so them working together, because I love, it's like, oh, like Ray shrinks Clark to get him out of the Anti-Monitor's hand. Kara throws it and shrinks him for eternity. He's forever shrinking, and it keeps him in that state. I'm wondering, does that set up something where it's kind of like that could be potentially undone? I'm not sure, but regardless of all that, there's also like I said, Killer Frost and Heatwave working together. But lo and behold, who shows a freaking Black Lightning? I'm like, yeah. I'm like fist pumping in the air, dude. And it's like, now we're having interactions between Heatwave and Black Lightning. I'm like, this is so fucking amazing. And it's like, where'd you come from? He's like, from Freeland. He just realized, he finding out about everything that went down, and is like, it's been a crazy couple of days. And then like Frost comes by beside him and is like, yeah, it has been. It's like, with everything that's going down, oh my god, dude. So luckily they end up ultimately saving the day. And I do like, the message that it was a public thing, and like they made sure it's known. So now it kind of sinks in that, it's like, oh yeah, like Oliver sacrificed himself for the world. Like, it's like we were on, we were going through a crisis. I don't think even maybe the president has some idea, but I don't think everyone knows to the full extent everything that really was going down. They have some idea of like, oh, the world was endangered or some stuff going down, but they will never know like what really went down. Only our main heroes, like that we've come to know and follow through all of this, will ever know the full truth about everything. So that's just kind of crazy to think about. But even like, Oliver being mentioned, it's like he died doing what he's always done, the way he lived with honor, being a hero. So let's take a moment, and everyone, around the different groups kind of bowing their heads for this moment. I thought it was very, sweet send-off. Like I said, I almost expected it to be like, no, we're going to undo it. It's like, no, because even Sarah was so desperate, but, it was kind of like, it was something that they all kind of had to accept, and because if it wasn't for Oliver's sacrifice, they wouldn't be, like, he helped create all of this. And we see with John and Lila, it's like, oh, Sarah, come over. It's like, oh, he undid the Flashpoint thing. Because remember, the whole thing was like, obviously they had a daughter first, Sarah, but then it became John Jr. But now it's like they have both. Now the question then becomes like, now what's that going to mean for Arrow's future? Because like what that means in the timeline, because like, well, because that also means maybe I'd assume things would still turn out the way they do, so that they end up raising Connor. But that means he has a sister, Sarah, too. So that's going to be an interesting dynamic to see what that means. Maybe that just means that John Jr. doesn't go down the path that he does. It might seem kind of similar to like the whole Kuwasa situation, like how she was a bad guy, but then like her history got changed and she became a good guy, like something like that. So the implications there are astounding. But then it's like, okay, so even though everything was compounded into this world, the multiverse, it started there, but then the multiverse still grew from this. This Earth now, that's the combination of Earth 38 and Black Lightning's Earth, which I was still under the impression it was Earth 1, but that's a whole thing in itself. But everything's consolidated on what is now Earth Prime. But we get Earth 2, we see Stargirl, because I was wondering like how she was going to pop up in this, but it's like, okay, so that's it. So now we know Stargirl is taking place on a different Earth than this continuity. So, okay. We get Earth 9, obviously Titans. I'm like, because I was curious because we saw Earth 19 as Swamp Thing. I'm like, oh, so that means it takes place on a different Earth from Titans and Doom Patrol. We find out Titans and Doom Patrol also take place on 2 different Earths. Titans takes place on Earth 9, and Doom Patrol is on Earth 21. Then there's like Superman Returns, Superman from Earth 90, was it 97? But then part of me wonders, is that supposed to be Brandon Routh as Superman from Superman Returns? Which I would assume, or is that, and maybe because the symbol on his chest is different, meaning everything went down differently in his life, or is that supposed to be him playing Superman, the animated, what is essentially Tim Daly's Superman from Superman, the animated series from the 90s. I was wondering if that was supposed to be like a reference there, but maybe not. Oh yeah, because I was trying to remember the other one, Earth 12, which shows us Green Lantern. I'm like, because we know that for HBO Max there's a Green Lantern show being made, so that's kind of tying that. But once again, part 4 tied the DC movies to the TV shows too, and it's like, oh, dude. I mean, to be fair, this is Crisis on Infinite Earths. Like, the storyline being what it is, you kind of have to do that. But it's like, you pulling on some strings that's going to make everyone lose their shit to be like, what does this mean going forward? You have to acknowledge this. Because you're in that situation where it's like, oh, like, you kind of, like, you literally kind of have to acknowledge the TV shows as a part of that continuity now. I mean, I'm sure they're going to work their way around that, sure. But it's like, for now, it's like, you set me up to be like, the movies and TV shows are, I mean, especially now, because it's obviously setting up to be like, even though the TV shows are all in the same multiverse, they're all just on different Earths, so they can kind of do their same thing while still existing within the same universe. So I was like, oh my god. But I thought it was kind of a beautiful memorial they gave for Oliver. It reminds me of kind of obviously like in Young Justice. Because I looked at the commercial and it kind of filled in some things, like Will Wheaton popping up in the first part. It's because apparently he voiced Aqualad in the Teen Titans cartoon. I'm assuming, because it just said Teen Titans, I'm assuming it's the one from the early 2000s on Cartoon Network. I had no idea. Like, that's why I was wondering. I was like, oh, that's just Will Wheaton. But it's like, there's even more of a reference to why Will Wheaton was there. But regardless, I was like, it was a beautiful, like, and then it's like also like the thing in front of him, it's in the shape of an arrow, kind of, like I said, it just reminds me of the monuments they have for everyone on, well, it's a combination, because obviously that's how they represent it here in Arrow, because when they lost someone, they left their costume there and everything on the thing, so, and even, like I said, it reminds me of Young Justice, so it's like, it was just this beautiful send-off to Oliver's character. And then it's like, and I love Jeff being like, so why are we here in this abandoned building? He's like, no, it's not an abandoned building. The fact of the matter is, there's more like, it's a special place that no one knows about. It's kind of like our new headquarters. And I love Kate being like, good for you. And he's like, not good for me, good for all of us. Because it's kind of, something, this way we have a place where we can get together in case, like, stuff ever goes wrong. And I love Jeff being like, I mean, how often is the world in danger? And everyone kind of goes, ugh. And then Jeff's like, oh, so it's like that. And Barrett kind of gives him a look like, yeah. And I look at me like, don't worry, dude. I was literally in your shoes, not literally last year. I'm like, dude, this is it. This is so much fun. And then the fact is, I saw I was like, is that the table? Is that the table? He pulls it back and there's a star in the middle. Everyone's got their seats. I'm like, these are kind of like the head honchos. I'm like, I don't know what to call this. I don't know, because my mind immediately goes, I'm like, are we officially starting our Justice League? I was like, what? Because I don't know if they're going, I mean, we know the Justice Society of America exists within our continuity just because of Legends and everything, but I'm still kind of like, I don't think that's what they're setting up. I think they are full-blown just being the Justice League, which I'm like, everyone's got their seats and their symbols, and I love Jeff being like, you should have started with that. And, they even got a spot open for Oliver. Because what did Oliver tell Mia? There always has to be a Green Arrow. So implying that, obviously that seat's going to be vacant for a while, but maybe someone present day will eventually pick up the mantle. And this whole thing kind of gets me thinking about like, well, what does this mean going forward for Arrow? And that was something I was thinking, like, because of like the future arc, I was like, is the rest of Arrow going to be in the future arc now that Oliver's gone? I'm kind of assuming that. But once again, it's like, well, what do the changes look like now because of that? Because of Diggle and Lila, knowing what the future looks like and everything like that. It's like, well, what does that mean? Because didn't he say, I don't know what to kind of make of that, which is like, what does this mean for every show, especially Supergirl, Lex, especially now, because even Clark, her cousin Clark didn't know about Lex. Now knows that, her and Alex and now Nia too knows the truth, which is interesting too, because that means that like Lex has been alive, and I think that means that Lena in this universe has been evil. Like, I don't think she's necessarily going down the path of being good, because I think Lex has decided to keep her on a shorter leash, and just keep her either kind of recognizing her like, oh, you're kind of at my level, so I respect you now. So he recognizes they can be equals, or it's more so to kind of keep her in line, because it's like, if I don't keep her, within my view, she might go off and be a do-gooder, which is so crazy. And I still like that even though he wins in the end, and I like that too, because that also means we're definitely going to be seeing a lot more Lex Luthor going forward. So that I'm interested to see what that means for Lena, because Lena doesn't remember the truth about the whole complicated relationship, because her and Kara have a very different relationship in this continuity, because things have changed. Obviously, Lex remembers everything, which is almost kind of like, hey, it undoes the betrayal, but maybe that betrayal still exists in this continuity. We have to find out like how everything is different for everyone, because we see how things are different on each of the, gets a little taste of how things are different with each show. We won't really know until each respective show ends up returning to find out like where they all kind of land in the grand scheme of things. And then there was also that thing at the very end, they were hearing an animal and stuff like that, and there's a cage and stuff, and I see Gleek. I'm like, Gleek. I was like, what the hell is that a reference to? And I see the banana. I'm like, you mean the blue monkey that kicks it with like the Justice League in the old school like Justice League cartoons and stuff like that? Because that little dude, he kicks it with the Wonder Twins, doesn't he? I think that's his whole thing. I think he's kind of like one of the Wonder Pets, like Crypto and stuff like that, which we know Crypto exists in the continuity of Titans, which is all interesting too, because the Wonder Twins, they don't exist in this continuity, not to my recollection. They do in Smallville's continuity, because I remember that, but it's like, I'm curious. I thought that was it's kind of a neat little wink and nod. What's also interesting too is the whole Clark situation, because it's like the boys, which I guess like, because even Clark was like the boys, because he remembers everything else, because I guess Lois might not have gotten the whole like memory thing yet. Maybe she does, but she's like, oh, the boys need, so it's like Clark had one son, John, before, but now he has two, and it's like, wait, what? That's interesting, because remember Clark, Tom Welling's Clark from 167 Smallville, he has two daughters, so it's just interesting how the multiverse works like that. But I was like, like, no, what does that mean? Like I said, so many changes. So I personally love this crossover, dude. This is without the doubt the biggest crossover ever. There is so much went into this, but this crossover had everything. The cameos were on point, and as I think Coy Jandreau had said best, like they served a purpose too. They were neat little things, but they also, like a great example, like I said, all the cameo things and what they meant for like Kate's story too. Like that's what I mean. So this has just been a fantastic crossover. I love it. I've talked about it before. Typically, I end up rewatching crossovers, so I'm excited. Now, I'll probably end up rewatching this soon enough. Like, it definitely when everything like eventually ends up on something like Netflix or something, depending on how the whole CW stuff works out, because of the whole HBO Max thing. But regardless, I'm excited to rewatch this entirety. Like, I don't know if everything is on the CW app right now. It might be, so we'll see. But if it is, I'm probably going to just rewatch all. I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, I'm excited to see, where this crossover, takes us going forward with each show going forward. Obviously, next week, if I'm not mistaken, not unless I read the date wrong, but I think it said Batwoman and Supergirl are coming back Sunday on the 19th, I believe. On the 20th, on Monday, we have Black Lightning returning. On the 21st, we have Arrow. It's like I said, its final 2 episodes are going to start airing. And also on the 21st, we have Legends of Tomorrow premiering. Technically, this is the first episode of Legends, so this is more so the premiere, but, technically, just in the confines of the show, next week's episode will be the premiere. Along with that, obviously, Stargirl is coming too, which is going to have that interesting thing of DC Universe and on the CW. So regardless, I'm very excited to dive into Stargirl, obviously a character I'm not that familiar with, but to see what that show ends up being. And just, we got a little introduction to our heroes, and I was like, holy crap, because the trailer for Stargirl didn't show any of that other stuff. So once again, it's like, it's on Earth 2, which makes me think, is that supposed to be like, as in Jay Garrick's? Not Jay Garrick's, because he's from Earth 3. Is that the same Earth 2 that we knew before, but different now? Or is it just a completely different Earth 2? I think it's a completely different Earth 2. Because these are new Earths spawned from this Earth. But like I said, but Titan's Earth is still not. Which also begs the question, is Lucifer's still in this continuity too? Which also, because some thoughts are like, oh, is Matt Ryan, Constantine, going to pop up in the final season of Lucifer or something like that? It makes you wonder about stuff but regardless, I'm so excited to see where, like I said, all the shows going forward. So, but obviously I have talked long enough. But really, that's all I want to talk about. So the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.